Hello, welcome back to the podcast. This morning, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about climate change, pole shift stuff, and then how a lot of it's bullshit or more complicated than just the Earth's getting warmer because human beings type shit. Also, when the magnetic poles do the reversal, and it's like a little flip flop, they reverse for like a short period of time and then flip back, which is, I believe, how it works. Um, Apparently, there's supposed to be some problems that come along with it, like the electromagnetic field of the Earth that shields us from most of the sun's radiation and radiation from space. Apparently, during this cycle where the magnetic poles do this shift because of the rotation of the earth, and they gradually over time accelerate and then shift and then flip back to the normal position. I think's how it works. I'm not too keen on that stuff, but when that happens, apparently the magnetic field that shields the earth from solar radiation weakens, and there supposedly is going to be electronic failure of like a lot of different, electronics. There's maybe gonna be some kind of electricity interference where maybe we'll lose electricity. Um, Satellite, cell phone tower interference. Not too sure about all this, but and then maybe like global hotspots of extreme heat, which would explain some kind of archaeological evidence. There's this archaeological evidence, and I'm pretty sure it's unrelated, but there's these like massive stones in Egypt and elsewhere that look like the rock. It's heat damage to stone, and heat damage is a very specific type of damage to rock because it like splinters, it shatters. Normally rock, when it's eroded by wind or rain, it's these like gradual like patterns that kind of warp the shape of the rock. But with heat damage to stone, it cracks off flakes. Like if you put a rock under like a big magnifying glass, it yeah. I don't know if that is related, but there's a lot of evidence all over the world of stone that is heat damage that's not caused by any kind of impact. Um, I mean, there's stone that's impact heat damage, but that's different. I don't know. We've gone in caves before for, reasons, whether that be, I don't know. I feel like if it's flooding, the best place to go would be the mountains. And then during a pole shift or something of similar, the best place would be underground. Um, which I don't know if that explains all these underground cities or what, but honestly, if you're an advanced civilization like these alien beings that I be talking about on my podcast, I don't think you would live on the surface of planets. I think that you would live deep underground in vast caverns or caves because as an advanced civilization, you probably know even the most perfect place for life to exist, the Earth, more perfect than any other planet we've observed yet. Just the relationship between the moon and the sun. is so much more perfect than, I mean, people act like solar eclipses are normal. That shit is not normal. A planet, I mean, eclipses are normal, but a solar eclipse that blocks out the entirety of the sun perfectly in certain spots on the earth periodically is very, like, that's more rare than the lottery. To have a sun that has, or to have an earth that has a moon that is as close as it is, that is as big as it is, as circular as it is, has a perfect rotation as it does, and is also the same size and distance as the sun is when you multiply it. And it's just so cool. So perfect what the moon and the sun do for us and our location. And global warming is needed to feed this many people. If the Earth had stayed the same since the Ice Age or since year zero, there probably wouldn't be 8 billion people. So we're probably alive today thanks to global warming, which originally wasn't human caused. But back to like alien civilizations living underground, like, as an advanced, intelligent race of beings, that the surface of planets is like a giant etch and sketch that you can build on it, you can live on it, you can thrive on it, but every now and then there's going to be an impact or some kind of solar disturbance or a flooding or something of the sort that is going to throw everything out of whack. That's going to annihilate a lot of the surfaces of the planet, and you have to be lucky enough to survive. So living underground, as you know, as bad as that may be, in our eyes, living underground doesn't sound too great unless we evolved for it. But that would probably be the way to go for survival, just for survival. I mean, if you've experienced or witnessed these events take place on the surface, like just like the Palisades fire in California, all of those houses that burned down that are no longer going to be covered by any insurance, I pretty sure if you lost your house in an LA fire, you're probably not going to rebuild there. You're probably going to move elsewhere to somewhere where wildfires aren't a regular occurrence because why risk the same thing happening twice after you've lost everything? And same thing with these beings. Why risk living on the surface of a planet when you've witnessed everything happen to these surfaces of these planets, whether it be from your people or other people? Like it's a no-brainer. Like obviously you're not going to rebuild where bad shit happens. You're going to rebuild somewhere where bad shit is far less likely to happen, which more than likely would be under the Earth's surface. I would imagine that it is a lot safer if you do it right than living on the surface of a planet. And I'd say most of the life in this solar system and this galaxy or universe probably exists beneath the surface of planets, considering most planets are probably, you know, icy surfaces or, gas giants which probably don't contain any life at all. Um, I'd imagine that microbial life, at the very least, exists underneath the surface of planets like or moons like Europa or Titan. Um, because living on the surface of those planets would be terrible. The only thing that allows life to thrive in abundance as we see it is our surface is habitable, and other planets and beneath our surface is quite habitable. There's plenty of creatures that live deep underground or deep in the ocean where that's probably where most life exists on most planets, deep underground or under the ocean, I would imagine. So, yeah, I think. I'm not saying I want to live under the surface of a planet. I'm not saying we should of our planet, but I think for long-term survivability, we've managed to get very lucky to get where we are today. Whether that be some kind of intervention to prevent us from blowing ourselves up, or to push away an asteroid that's been coming our way. But yeah, we've gotten very lucky on that disease, or there's like 10 things or more that could wipe us out on a daily basis, and we've been fine for the last 10,000 years. Last time something huge happened that wiped out most of the human race was probably at the end of the last ice age during the flooding that occurred. I mean, obviously, you've had a lot of close calls since then, like the Black Plague, and maybe the Mongols, or a lot of human life that was lost and destroyed, but nothing on the scale of more than 50 to 60% of the world since probably the end of the last ice age, I would imagine. But that's when the rebuilding takes place. A lot of these ancient sites that are attributed to Inca or ancient Egyptians or the Romans, a lot of these ancient sites that are attributed to those people and those cultures are actually just reused far more ancient sites that have undergone reconstruction or have been rebuilt upon. Because why would I, as a ancient culture living at the time, why would I rebuild a whole nother site when the Great Pyramids are right there? Like, if as an ancient Egyptian, why relocate and rebuild somewhere else when all of this stuff is still just laying there? Pre-ancient Egyptians constructed a lot of what the Old Kingdom is supposedly to be said to have been constructed was pre-Old Kingdom, probably pre-end of last ice age, because obviously the equator wasn't ice. The equator, for most of Earth's history, hasn't been ice, and a lot of people think that the ice age was like global, globally cooler temperatures, which is true, but the equator was probably more enjoyable of a climate than it is today during the last ice age. So, yeah, we're actually still coming out of the last ice age, and temperatures are starting to get back to warmer, um, which is hilarious, this whole global warming situation. Which I think global warming does cause eventually leads to global cooling. It's like a flip and a flop and a flip and a flop. Global cooling eventually causes the Earth to warm itself back up, and then global warming causes the Earth to cool itself back off. But with or without us, this change would be taking place. The Earth would be getting warmer. Only in the last 2,000 years, if you look at I guess we're the warmest it's been in the last couple thousand years. But if you look at the last few 100,000 years that humans have existed, this isn't the coldest it's ever been, and it's not the warmest it's ever been. But if you look at the graph, it's definitely in the colder side. But if you look at a more recent graph, we're on the warmer side. So it's really about perspective. If you look at a graph of recent history, it's very warm. If you look at a graph at global history from a long time ago, it's actually a lot cooler. And we need it warmer because it's in the negative some places that they grow crops during the spring to fall. And if you want to be able to grow enough to feed up this population, we need more water, more warmth, more growing period cycles. So I feel like a lot of this mental health problems that we have is just because of large societies and cities. I'm not saying that I don't want, you know, large populations of people living in close proximity to each other. But I feel like that's where a lot of mental health issues in society come into play because if you go look at like, very tribal, very ancient like cultures that still practice, old type ways that, modern cities don't. It's a small group of people. Everyone knows each other. They live in a closed group with each other. They live by their family most of their lives with their parents and kids. And everything that they accomplish benefits the group as a whole. I would probably get a lot more satisfaction going out and hunting for my group back home and bringing home food and celebrating and eating it and being happy that I was able to feed everyone from catching this amazing animal. I'd probably get a lot more satisfaction and a lot more purpose and a lot more drive and be a lot less depressed doing that, even though there's no money involved, than, doing some repetitive, laborious task that, pays me a certain amount that I'm not passionate about. It's not really benefiting anyone but me. And it's not really long term helping anyone but myself. But when you're helping a group and you feel purpose and you bring home food and you see everyone eating and happy and smiles on their faces and your family is, eating and everyone's having a good time and it's just simpler, it's simpler. Even if you're working 12 hours a day, as long as you bring home that catch of food, it is going to benefit your group. And I feel like that's why like suicide or severe mental health is a lot less common and a lot more unheard of and tribal like cultures. I heard I was watching a video of the like tribesmen. I don't I think it was in Africa or somewhere, but there somebody was just talking about America and like referencing America, and one of them has said like, oh, where people like kill themselves. Like suicide is such a foreign concept to some of these people who live in simpler cultures, um, simpler societies. And I feel like that is the way we are meant to live, and that is the way that gives us the most happiness. But also, it doesn't allow this many people to coexist next to one another. You kind of need, modern society and modern cities and modern infrastructure and jobs and money and government to allow this many people to coexist. And I don't like global depopulation, honestly. Like I like the increase of population. I might want kids one day, and I want everyone to have that opportunity. So and I think that living in closed groups off, somewhere is just no longer really an option, for most people, and that's okay. I think if we are going to evolve as a species, we have to learn to coexist in large groups together and be happy doing it. I just got done listening to a fascinating podcast with Brett Weinstein and Joe Rogan, and it was very interesting. Brett Weinstein is an evolutionary biologist, and he talked about some very interesting stuff, and that came out today actually. So go watch it. Um, talks about how in Darwinian evolution there is a extra step that's not just random mutation, um, and that random mutation being the only thing that allows the organism to uh, survive and adapt to its environment because that random mutation is better than it not mutating, and that random mutation surviving because it makes it better adapted to its environment. And he talks about this extra hidden part where the process is accelerated through some means that is not yet known, where the random mutation that is going to allow that organism to better thrive in its environment um, is accelerated. And that's what explains, at least the Darwinian evolution, for it to for organisms to evolve more rapidly, which is how I guess you get us. And I don't know, I feel like there is some intelligent design aspect to that. I don't know. He also explains that you can't really have intelligent design without Darwinian evolution, because how did you get the intelligent design without those beings, evolving without intelligent design? Because if you go far enough back, someone's going to have to come from something that isn't, created. I don't know. But I feel like that gets into like the God equation and like what equation that, Michio Kaku talks about, trying to find this God equation that is responsible for the creation of the universe or creation of human consciousness. And yeah, I feel like, at least the God creation or the human consciousness and the creation of it, I feel like that could be found somewhere in there. I don't know. I feel like there has to be some kind of aspect of intelligence to create the universe that we're living in. And there has to be some extreme, very extreme aspect of luck or intelligence to get the planet that we live on, like a very extreme aspect of luck to where, no other planets we've observed, have this type of environment. Um, Not environment, but I always talk about that moon. If the universe itself isn't enough to prove the existence of some sort of divine creator or just intelligence, then the earth, the moon, and the sun, that system that we exist in, I feel like is much more evident of some kind of intelligent creator. Um, I don't know, I feel like it could be an aspect of both, Like I feel like the moon had to have been put there for it to be so perfect, by some beings or some being, because it's just too perfect. It stabilizes our climate, our Earth's rotation. We only ever see one face of it, which is weird. Because yes, the Earth revolves around, or the moon revolves around the Earth, and that's how we get moon phases. You know, from the sun hitting different parts of the moon in the sky. But what's weird about us only ever seeing one phase is there could literally be anything on the other side of the moon. I should probably look at photos, but I'm not sure I've ever seen the other face of the moon, referred to as the dark side of the moon, which gets about just as much sunlight on both sides, but it does not rotate, just revolves. Or if it does rotate, it's tidally locked. Um, And one face is always facing us, which is really, really strange. You could literally put anything on the other side of that bitch, and no one will know. I feel like we do have some shit on the other side of it. They probably never stopped doing missions. And they probably got like bases on the other side of the moon, I would imagine. Why wouldn't you? Like, fuck a satellite. Let's build a moon base on the side that you can't see with the telescope. I don't know. Black Ops Zombies. Whoever made the Black Ops Zombies is very interested in like conspiracies or very weird shit. I don't know how many of y'all have ever played Black Ops Zombies, but there is a moon map that is a moon base that I would imagine is on the dark side of the moon. And then there's this element called Element 115 that they're always referred to in the series, and that's the same element that Bob Lazar references being used as a propulsion to create, you know, energy for these UFOs to, move by converting an element 116, which decays instantly, and some kind of yeah, like radiation. I don't know, propulsion system. In the interview with Brett Weinstein and Joe Rogan, they also talked about, you know, propulsion systems of these supposed, flying crafts. Brett said that he believes it's some kind of projection, um, which I guess I could see that, but I honestly don't. And he also said that these things are said to not make any noise, no visible means of propulsion, and they don't make any noise. And he says that's impossible because even if they didn't have, you know, engine noise or propulsion noise, they'd still have noise from the air collapsing as it moves, super fast. And, Joe Rogan mentioned that these things bend, they might bend the space around the craft by some kind of gravitational propulsion technology. And I have no idea how this would work, but I feel like if these things really don't make any noise and they're not really moving through the air, because that would make noise, somehow they're in their own like dimension. Like they are almost like the mirror dimension from fucking Doctor Strange, but not the mirror dimension. Like they're I've said this before, I feel like they're jumping like very quickly in succession. Like they're teleporting. I don't think it's like moving in a straight linear path. Feel like they're jumping, and that's what allows them to move through the air with, no noise and under the water. And I don't know. There's a lot of this cool shit. Y'all gotta go look into it. I don't know if y'all have or not, but oh, let's change it up a little bit. A few of my favorite ancient sites around the world would be, of course, Egypt, um, pyramids of Giza, and some other stuff, but specifically the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Middle Pyramid, some Baalbek, another amazing ancient site. Those foundational stones at Baalbek weigh around 1,000 tons. It's- The site is attributed to the Romans, but the Romans constructed around what they found there. That's my belief. Same thing all over the world. Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, two more of my favorite sites, said to have been constructed by the Inca, but really, the Inca were the last to inhabit the area and the site itself. Um, so all over the world, you find these ancient sites that were just re-inhabited by later people, and the last people to inhabit the area are given credit to constructing the site itself. And a lot of these ancient sites are far older than believed because you can't carbon date the stone, and they're just attributed to the latest culture that lived in the region. And it's very evident in a lot of the construction at Sacsayhuaman, Machu Picchu, Baalbek, Egypt. You see a degradation in the quality of the stonework and the sophistication of the works at all these sites. You see a degrading. Um, yeah, I just think it's really cool. Um, the pyramid doesn't give really any reason why it would be a tomb other than being repurposed later by ancient Egyptians as a tomb or temple. Um, but the Egyptians who actually built it, the pre-ancient Egyptians, the Egyptians before the Egyptians before the Egyptians, pre-Old Kingdom, probably pre-end of last ice age, during the last ice age. Um, I believe that it was constructed probably around that time, given there's multiple different reasons for that. Um, I guess I can list them. I mean, there's water erosion, there's like a reuse of different surrounding sites. There was the implementation of hieroglyphs later on after the site was long finished, and the hieroglyphs have had far less wear and tear than the actual structure itself. On most structures, the hieroglyphs are drawn on that are far older than the hieroglyphs. It's like graffiti. And the big giveaway would probably be the Sphinx and the Age of Leo procession of the equinox. I think it was one of the biggest ways to date the Sphinx and the surrounding area to previous Egyptians, pre-ancient Egyptians. And then in Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, you have perfect puzzle piece fitted stones, and then shitty shit thrown on top of it. I don't know. My favorite band, Tool. If you haven't listened to Tool, I recommend you go try them out. I used to just strictly listen to rap and like hip hop and pop and R&B and like middle school and some in high school, a lot in high school too. But in high school I started listening to a lot more rock and different genres of music. A lot of people think rock and they think 80s. I know a lot of people my age, they think rock and they think Journey and Bon Jovi and just the 80s rock bands that are pretty mediocre or bad. And there's like 90s rock and 60s and 70s rock and early 2000s rock that's like really, really good. And Tool is up there. They're metal, but not really. They're like progressive rock and they have a lot of psychedelic elements and they're really bass and drum heavy. And the way they produce their music just blends so perfectly, and their production style and the way they sound is so unique and so brilliant and beautiful, and the lyrics tie in so beautifully, and the singer never really. I don't like a lot of metal that's super like heavy on the vocals and super like screamy. I mean, Deftones does it really well, the scream vocals. But with Tool, it's more melodic and beautiful, and you know, higher notes and higher pitch than a lot of these. When someone says they like metal, it's usually a mixed bag. It's usually they like really good quality metal, or they like Bring Me the Horizon, or some random weird shit. Or I don't know. System of a Down is one of those bands that I can agree that's good, or that I'm told is very good, and I try to listen to, and I can't get into them. Primus as well. I don't get it. Um, I mean, I get the whole goofiness of System of a Down and Primus, but I can't do it, man. Maybe one day. But Tool, I feel like is a lot more accessible in terms of metal. I feel like you probably have to go down the rock hole of like the Strokes and maybe Queens of the Stone Age and Radiohead, which Radiohead is probably the best band ever. They just have like zero misses on all their albums. I mean, there's a few misses on a few albums, but and their catalog is a 10. Like if you pick a random song off any album, chances are it's going to be amazing. So Tom York, fantastic musician. Radiohead, amazing. OK Computer and In Rainbows are my top five favorite albums. Probably like two. They're in my top five for sure. I probably think OK Computer and In Rainbows might be objectively better than Lateralis or Enema, but Lateralis is just so fucking good. Like the Tool's music, the vibe, like Radiohead's probably better than Tool in terms of like discography, but Tool just it just has this like if you're listening to the right sound system and the right headphones or earbuds in, they're, it's so beautiful, and like there's so much more deeper meaning to the lyrics. And even the name Tool is like Tool can be a dick, Tool can be someone who is a dick, or Tool can be a tool for exploring uh using music in a way that is explorative, and there's like a lot of different it's awesome. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to talk about, so now I'm just talking about music because that's something I'm really passionate about. My band hopefully will put out something before I die. That'd be a miracle. But yeah, Tool, Deftones, Radiohead, Neurosis, ISIS, the band named after the god, not named after the terrorist group. Um, those are some amazing bands. Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, um, Queens of the Stone Age, and the Strokes. I don't listen to both of those bands as much anymore, but still fantastic bands. Um, Queens of the Stone Age is incredible. Dave Grohl on the drums, so good. That's really what Queens of the Stone Age is probably what bridged like regular rock for me into like harder rock. And then that's probably how I progressed into the Deftones, Tool, some Soundgarden. Jesus Christ Post is a phenomenal song. I mean, I could name like 100 songs right now that are phenomenal from all of those bands. Gojira is great. They do the heavy vocals and the heavy metal very well. But I can see why somebody would be disinterested or turned off by their heavy style. I really like Gojira, but I don't know. I prefer the instrumentals to the vocals, but the vocals are still incredible. I I don't like the super heavy screen like vocals all the time. Sometimes still a great band. Gojira is still a great band. I know a lot more bands than that. I'm just blanking right now. Alice in Chains was so good. Like I'm trying to think of a bad album by them, but I don't. I'm sure there is one that's not great, but most of Alice in Chains was incredible. Soundgarden, fantastic. Um, what's that old band still makes music to this day? King Crimson is really experimental and very good progressive psychedelic jazz rock whatever. I don't even know what the fuck I'd call King Crimson. Everything, every genre. King Crimson is really interesting. Uh, King Crimson inspired a lot of Tool. Best drummer ever, in my opinion, Danny Carey. Just because I love Tool, I love his writing, his the way he writes his drums, and the way his drums sound over the track, and the tones that he has on the drums, and how he incorporates acoustic drums with electronic drums sometimes. Like Danny Carey is has to be my favorite drummer ever. He's the best. I fucking love Danny Carey. Motherfucking Danny Carey, man. I fucking love that guy. He's so good. Maynard James Keenan is an incredible singer, incredible vocalist. Songs like The Pot by Tool, I used to not be a huge fan of because who are you to wave your finger? You must like I was turned. You must have been like that shit used to like turn me off the song a little bit. The opening vocals to the pot. That was like one of my like Tool songs that was hard for me to get into, even though that's a lot of people's starting Tool song or becomes one of their favorites. And now I fucking love the pot. Like it's incredible. I probably over listen to every Tool song by now, but I still love Tool, and I'll still listen to them over probably anything else. I fucking love them. Um, but Lateralis has to be their best album, followed by Enema, followed by Undertow, followed by 10,000 Days, and then finally followed by Fear Inoculum. Um, and they're supposed to be releasing another album maybe this year, which I'll be surprised if they do. But I've heard rumors that Maynard James Keenan is in the works to release some projects this year. I'm worried that it's going to be for Pussifer, and I'm also worried it's going to be another mediocre Perfect Circle album because Perfect Circle is an incredible band. They're just their last album wasn't that great, and then Pussifer, I don't know what the fuck kind of shit they're smoking when they record for Pussifer, but obviously Maynard James Keenan doesn't just make Tool. Danny Carey, I mean Danny Carey makes up the fucking lot of it, but he doesn't just make Tool. Every single person in Tool coalesces into Tool, and that's what makes that band so incredible. You know, Pussifer and A Perfect Circle sound like well, Perfect Circle sounds quite similar to Tool, but a little less heavy, which I don't mind, but it's not as good as Tool, but. A lot of older A Perfect Circle and albums are amazing. I fucking love A Perfect Circle too. But Christopher, like, it's like a completely different band that Maynard's a part of. And I don't if it were me, I'd be focusing all of my time and energy in a perfect circle and tool and trying to perfect those instead of working on some mediocre shit. But there's people that like Pussifer. I don't get it. There's a lot of music that people like that I don't get. I used to like Bryson Tiller. I used to like uh fucking Party Next Door, The Weeknd is still he's a great music like he's a great musician, he's a great vocalist. Um but I've kind of moved away from what's popular, I guess, because there is so much better music. Like I finally found like the music that I fucking love. Kid Cudi I used to like a lot. I mean, I still love his music. It's just like once you move away from a lot of rap and hip hop and R&B and I mean, if that speaks to you, that's fine, but like and pop and all that, once you move away from a lot of that stuff and like get into certain types of rock music, wow. Like some of it is amazing. Some of it is terrible, like all genres, but some of it is amazing. I'm a man who likes every genre. I even listen to country, from time to time. Uh, Usually not me who instigates it, but I do fuck with some country. It's probably the genre I have the least amount of knowledge on, but I'd say I have more country songs in my head than most people do. I know a lot of country. I just know a lot of music, honestly. Um, Me and my friends we're thinking of starting a podcast called the Snobcast, where we talk about music and be snobby with it and hate on stuff and really like not really hate. I mean, yeah, hate on stuff, but also support stuff that's incredible. It's not really that like people a lot of people like bad music, but it's not like they don't think it's bad because they haven't heard something good or they haven't like opened themselves up to like really good music. Like I used to think The Weeknd was amazing and he still is, but like I used to think Bryson Tiller, Party Next Door, Post Malone, uh fucking everyone's gonna hate me, but Mac Miller, Future, Travis Scott, Kendrick Lamar is great, but J. Cole, like I used to think these guys were incredible. And some of them are. Travis Scott's probably the best trap artist to ever exist. Just because of the production and the soundscapes that you find yourself in and Kendrick Lamar is amazing. I didn't like Morales and the Big Steppers or whatever. I didn't like his last album. I think Damn is like some of his best production ever, honestly. I like To Pimp a Butterfly, but and then J. Cole just kind of does like, melodic rap. J. Cole's kind of fallen off a little bit too. But and then Kanye is not as good as he used to be, but Kanye is still an incredible artist. Um, but as great as all of those artists are, like bands like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Tool, Deftones, Radiohead specifically, and many other bands of different variety of genres are so much fucking better than like any of those names that I mentioned. Like no offense to Kendrick or I mean even old school hip hop and rap. Like of course those, are a certain vibe and they fit that vibe, but I'm sorry, I just so good. Music itself might be the creation force behind the universe. The in Genesis in the Bible and a lot of other religious texts, God said, "Let there be light." So That means before light, there had to have been sound or vibration or frequency of some kind for it to coalesce. I don't know. There's just some weird like stuff with music and sound and frequency and vibration that perpetrates the whole universe. I don't know. I apparently every single element and has its own frequency, its own vibrational frequency, and you can match different frequencies to get different outcomes. I think that there is a cure for cancer, and one of those cures is beaming frequencies through ultrasound or some other mean, beaming frequencies directed at cancer cells and bursting the cancer cells inside the patient without the need of surgery or removal. And I'm pretty sure that that is something that has been done before or been heavily looked into and studied. It's just, of course, treatment is far more profitable. Band-aid fixes, medications, all of this is far more profitable. If there's a vitamin you're deficient in that's causing a certain physical problem for yourself, and you go to the doctor and you're like, "Hey, doc, I feel this way. I don't feel too well." He's going to give you a medication to help with the symptoms instead of fixing the underlying issue of you not having enough of a particular vitamin or exercise or whatever the means may be. Like, we need to stop doing this medication shit. It's all for profit. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. There's too much money getting made off of bad things happening to the average person, an average American. There's a fire in the Palisades of Maui. Now the most expensive land in the world is now ash and can be bought for pennies of what it used to cost. And nobody's gonna rebuild there. So people who want to buy up land can just come to you and say, "Hey, we'll buy your land for not even half of what it used to be." Boom, and they buy it all up and do whatever the fuck they want with it. The prime real estate in the country, and it's just a scary thought. Like the pharmaceutical drug companies all made way more money off of COVID than they did during any normal year. So that incentivizes them to either take advantage of another global disaster or pandemic or initiate one, which I'm not saying that they would, but they'd make a lot of money if they did. And, a virus that's twice as fatal, 10 times as fatal would be more profitable than something like the common cold. So very scary stuff to think about. We make more money at war than we do not being at war, or not us, but these companies make more money with the pandemic than with no pandemic. Have more cheaply available land to do whatever the fuck I want with it as a businessman when there's fires, you know? The more bad shit that happens to the average American benefits a lot of these companies. Scary stuff. And I think there's something to the sound being creative, a creative force, frequency and vibration being some kind of creative force. I've been watching this channel. This has nothing to do with that, but I've been watching this channel called Outdoor Boys and a few other like outdoor channels. I used to watch this a lot, a few years ago, but just like watching someone and like, a natural environment, trying to escape the elements by building their own shelter. and just, surviving the night or a few nights. It's just something very calming to watching those videos. I really recommend it. I like the snowy ones where you build snow shelters in the ground or log little log shelters. It's really it's really like good to fall asleep to. It's real nice. Um, I would love to go out and do something like that. Maybe hunting or fishing or and some element of that. Of course, it's not going to be pure survival, like I'm not making a fire out of two sticks. I'd probably bring a flint or steel rods or a lighter with me, which it feels like cheating, but I'd bring that and then maybe some like cotton balls to start it, and of course I'd find all the wood on location, but that's the easy part. And I'd probably bring a sleeping bag or, a tent or some other materials with me, which kind of feels like cheating, it feels like, you know, people didn't have all of this that long ago. And, if I'm gonna replicate what they used to do, I feel like I should do it with nothing but like some kind of knife or something. Even that feels like cheating. Just being dropped off in the wilderness with your bare hands and trying to figure out how to survive, that feels um, it feels more authentic. I mean, of course, I could probably the surrounding area is dry enough. I could probably make a fire with, wood. But how would I carve the wood to get it, you know, to where I could rub it in a way that would create the most friction? I would need something to carve out the piece of wood to do that, unless I wanted to try rubbing two sticks together, which and then I would need something that lights real easily, and it'd be pretty hard to do that. I mean, I guess I could get some like wooden fragments or little bits, little shavings of wood from rubbing it against a rock or something. I could probably break off like some bits of rock into like sharp pieces if I found like some obsidian or something of the sort. But it's a lot easier when you bring some tools. I like shows. Like there used to be this show called Alone, and it was cool and all, but like that over dramatized, swapping between different people, like competing. It's more fun to see, like, I just want like a video or a documentary. This might already be out there, I'm sure it is, of somebody who is dropped off in the wilderness with their bare hands, or, maybe like a knife or just a couple items, which is what Alone did. But honestly, I want to see it done with bare hands and like be authentic, like surviving in the wilderness for 3 days with nothing but my bare hands, like gathering water, food, uh, sticks, rocks, whatever you can find to help yourself. But that would be so much fun to like see from start to finish, maybe like, cuts so that it's not 3 day long video, but maybe like an hour long video of somebody doing that. That would be very interesting. Obviously, you would need the cameras, but if that was it, that'd be real sick. And of course, there's always the thought that maybe off camera they're sleeping in their car a few 100 yards behind them or something, but it'd be a fun watch. I like stuff like that, like survival shit. It'd be, I mean, it'd be fun just to test myself, it'd be fun just to get out there in nature and like try to do like something creative, like real life Minecraft shit, which sounds really silly saying that. Real life Minecraft. Well, that's just survival. But I want to continue working on music, um, YouTube videos. I'm probably gonna start, you know, I'm gonna have a few channels, I'm gonna have my gaming channel that I'm in the it's in the works. A lot of this shit's in the works because I go to work and just don't feel like doing shit on my off days, and I'm a little lazy now, I guess. But the podcasts are really easy. I can pump these out in less than a day. Record it, put it together, boom, drop it, upload it. Now the video documentaries that I want to post to this same channel to complement my podcast, but be like a real deep dive into the subject matter with, video, photo, audio, like a more entertaining watch or listen than just this. That's really what I'm looking forward to doing. It's just it takes fucking forever to edit. I'm kind of stuck on what I'm going to add to the video, what's going to make it the most interesting to watch. And I think honestly, like if I can sit down and watch a video about three guys, I can watch a 3 hour long podcast, two guys talking and be entertained, then I think that this will do just fine. I'm really putting like clips together from the disclosure hearings on UAPs and, and putting some of the video encounters that the pilots had. And then that's one segment of the video, the disclosure hearings. And it could all be a government sign but a lot of it could be bullshit. But some of these guys I trust, I believe. I think that they have, a lot more to lose than to gain. And I don't think it's a lot of these guys are involved in psyops. Some of them maybe, but there's some of the stuff like the Tic Tac UFO and stuff that's just so unexplainable that it deserves a deep dive video into it. But after that segment, I'm kind of stuck because I'm like, well, I have the disclosure hearing, which is like kind of legitimate alien shit. But to do next, I don't know if I need to like talk about some more controversial stuff that's not really. I mean, it's based in facts, but not like anything that sounds legit, or anything that sounds too fact based. Like with the Tic Tac incident and Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Ryan Graves, and some of these guys like that. Like, I want my documentaries to be like legitimate, like fact based, explorative, um, stuff that's not really like, oh, this kind of sounds like bullshit. Because there's a lot of stuff that's like very speculative, and I do want to speculate a little bit, but I kind of want to keep it like legitimate. Like, what do we know about non-human intelligence? What do we know about UFOs and UAPs? For this specific video, this is what it's on. I could probably go a lot more in depth with archaeology and ancient history, and because I have a lot more like video and photo evidence of erosion patterns and construction methods and mysteries on that than I do on the alien stuff. Is just like all over the place. Like, I don't know who to believe. I don't know who to put in there. Bob Lazar, I definitely want to put in there. He's in there a little bit. I want to put some of these encounters, like maybe the Zimbabwe school UFO or the Virginia incident. Um, I kind of want to include maybe a few of the abduction stories of people that I kind of believe for the most part. I just, I'm trying to make it the most explorative and, the best alien documentary that's out there, or UAP documentary. But the next one's definitely going to be on archaeology, the next documentary I do. I mean, I might get done with that one before I even finish this fucking alien one. But mm, yeah, there's just a lot more out there on like human origins and civilizations and stuff than there is on the alien stuff. It's a lot easier to go over, but whatever. I've done enough talking for today. This is a little shorter of a podcast than I wanted it to be. But thanks for listening. I'm gonna have another one out tomorrow, maybe early morning Saturday, hopefully Friday night, but takes a while to upload these for whatever reason. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you. Bye. My one viewer. Bye.